Welcome back to Book Cover Appreciation, where we look at the often ignored part of the publishing industry, the first thing you see of any book, the cover. Now sometimes book cover designers will reuse an established template for their books. It kind of saves time and editing, especially when the books are well known and the fan base doesn't need a flashy cover to draw in the new punters. However, this can lead to a series of covers that looks more like someone just changed the colour scheme and then flipped the image and called it a day. So it is with the Jack Reacher series of books, which has, shall we say, a consistent look to them. However, some covers in the Jack Reacher series break the mould. So here are 3 Jack Reacher book covers that actually show you something that's going to happen in the book, instead of the typical Reacher hitchhiking once again. It's nice to have a little bit more. Jack Reacher tends to work alone. He's quoted as being quite capable of never speaking to anyone again for the rest of his life, kind of like me at most parties. Anyway, in the book Bad Luck and Trouble, Reacher is joined by 3 former friends from his old unit, Carla Dixon, David O'Connell and Frances Negley, who is perhaps the most intimidating woman in all of fiction, described as being able to gather any information on anyone and possibly a lock of baby hair if requested. Now, the cover of Bad Luck and Trouble alludes to this, with actually putting all 4 characters on the cover, giving us, the reader, a hint that Reacher won't be spending his time on the side of the road with a car in the foreground or in an industrial estate somewhere. However, they still couldn't resist the temptation to put them all in the middle of a road in a desert somewhere. The fact that we are being shown all 4 characters, all 3 friends of Reacher, is exciting. He was their commander in the army, and we like to think, are these people always hyper capable of him? Capable of doing incredibly competent and extreme violence? It'll be interesting to find out. If you had only one word to describe the Reacher family, it would be frightening. His father is described as being able to put a bullet through basically anyone's head and then sleep like a baby the next day. Reacher himself says that next to his father, he comes across like Liberace. His mother, as a young girl, once strangled a 10-year-old, I think, during the Nazi occupation of France, and she was actually much younger, so yes, she's frightening too. His brother is the least violent of the family, but that's like saying a pistol is the least deadly of all the guns. In the short story Second Son, we learn a little more about Reacher's family, other than their tendency towards kill first, and then you don't have to bother with the tedious questions later approach. And the cover for this book actually shows us a little bit about what we can expect. It's not just Reacher on his own by a beach. We're going to be shown perhaps his father and brother. And yes, they all have their backs to us like a typical Reacher book. And we can only assume that Reacher is the shortest one. But it's interesting that we're actually in this book not just going to learn about Reacher, who we know is the second son. We're going to learn about his brother and his father a bit more. It's such an interesting prospect. It's not just about the second son Reacher, it's about the whole family. But it's a weird way to dress for the beach though, I will say that much, although I wouldn't call them weird to their faces. The title of this book alone begs an interesting question. Go back where? Reacher does like to repeat visit some places in America. Luckily this never results in him meeting somebody he's already decimated on his merry random head-butting tour of the USA. But breaking with tradition, this book cover actually gives us a clue as to where Reacher is returning to. Now, the barbed wire and the obvious gatehouse suggests a military installation of some kind, and we know Reacher was a military man. Is he getting his old job back? The cover suggests so, which gives us a little clue as to what's going to happen in this story. Now, one of the reasons I like reading Jack Reacher books is because I do have a chance to figure out what's happening alongside the main character. So I like that this cover is kind of allowing me to play detective before I've even opened the book. This book gets one misleading and dishonourable mention. In Tripwire, there is no Tripwire, so false advertising on that cover from the start. In the book, the Tripwire in question is more of a phone call that triggers a series of explosive issues for Reacher and makes life worse for the villain, who is kind of like if Captain Hook from Peter Pan decided to become a loan shark after dumping Pan's body at sea. This version of the Tripwire cover also plays into this false advertising. We see a barbed wire, the worst kind of tripwire, but it's not something that appears in the book in any significant way. Tricked us, cover designer, congratulations. This would have made sense if Jack Reacher ended up strangling someone with barbed wire, and not out of character move for Reacher. But it gets a dishonourable mention because we're being sort of taunted with this idea that barbed wire is going to be important, and it's not. So there you go. 3 Jack Reacher covers that break the mould and show us something that's actually going to appear in the story, giving us an idea of what to expect, other than, well, Reacher's backside the whole time. Seriously, Reacher, walk forwards for once in your life. Thanks for watching. Check out our videos, etc, etc. You know what to do, subscribe and so on. But put in the comments your favourite Jack Reacher cover. And have a good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world. Goodbye.